Antifa riots because property destruction, for some reason, lighting a building on fire is not political violence. But when a white supremacist who became a white supremacist in prison to survive commits assault on another prisoner, somehow that is political violence perpetuated by the right. And your burden is much, much more stronger than simply citing a number in a study. You can't just cite a number in a study, say, hey, look, this study based off of faulty classification shows that there's more political violence from the right. You can't just do that because you don't know the proper class.
What do you mean, like what Andrew is trying to argue? He's right.
Classifications of things, and when you do adjust for the classifications of things, you understand where the largest scale scope of political violence has occurred, which side it is from, and you see that the left has persistently, time and time again, excused, rationalized, stood in front of burning buildings, saying the mostly peaceful protest behind me, and you go there and you cheer.
2020 is the most obvious one.
With these studies and saying, like, look at this study. Schumer, this is what I have.
Said, that's great.
Yeah, he's saying it's semantics. He's meaningless bickering. Yes, when they say stuff like that, it's basically just trying to it's basically defense and offense, right? They're trying to just look for defense and offense movement in the conversation, because conversations, they do have structures, right? One is in the offense and one's in the defense. Usually the one that is asking the questions is the one that is in the offense. The one that is just answering the questions is the one that is in the defense. When they get into semantic, understand it's just a way of just, dominating frame. Correct.
So if you go to the BLM protests, you can see where Chuck Schumer actually came out and said that the small minority who have exploited the protests to wreak havoc and violence are wrong, and they are not taking part in the grand American tradition of First Amendment protests. That was from
so why do you think Kamala Harris?
We also had Gretchen Whitmer. That's great. We still had Gretchen Whitmer.
That has nothing to do with anything.
Who have taken to the streets. Yes, because what it means is that the left, once again, as I mentioned, consistently condemns the rhetoric. I would encourage you to point out to me.
This is crazy. Kamala Harris literally was just advocating in 2020 for the release of the protesters, even just sharing their links to just donate it to just bail out. Like, I don't know what he's talking about.
You could maybe point to January 6th and say where Donald Trump condemned it, yet he then pardoned over 1,600 defendants. So again, you want to talk about how the left never condemns any of this rhetoric. There's several examples in which the left consistently condemns this rhetoric.
Wait, I'm confused. Did you just say that Donald Trump endorsed J6 by not pardoning the J6 defendants?
No, by pardoning them is what he said.
Yeah, yes. And how long did that take for the pardons to come through? For the pardons to come through for the J6ers?
Why does that matter?
Well, because the reason that would matter is because that would mean that he allowed for evidentiary findings to come through before he made the decision about pardons or not pardons, right?
Right. So when he pardons someone like Enrique Tarrio for committing, seditious...
this guy is just very ChatGPT-ish, this conversation. You see, this guy right here just using some ChatGPT or something. We're looking in Google or whatever, which is fine. The problem is that the conversation doesn't become honest because you're not listening. You're just looking to just get some brownie points.
To overthrow the government, who is convicted of that and in jail for that, and he pardons him because he aligns with this political agenda that is somehow exculpatory, matters that the evidence came out later. Like, what does that have to do with it?
First of all,
you're jumping way off the scale.
Totally off the topic. But I'm actually happy. Just very quickly, I'll engage with this. Right, the president has discretion to make those pardons based on what he considered to be a political witch hunt.
Yeah,
whether the guy was convicted, whether he was convicted or not, and just like how Joe Biden decided to pardon his kid on the way out the fucking door. Okay, thing is like you could say what you want there, but the thing is that the president has the power to make these pardons based on what he thinks is best, and he thought that there was a political witch hunt and that this guy didn't deserve to be thrown in prison for this.
Yeah, that's a lot of words to say he pardoned a seditious conspiracist. But I want to get back to this BLM thing, because when we're talking about political violence...
You see, this is a technique that a lot of people use even on sale. Like, they just... they acknowledge the rebuttal, or sort of like answer the rebuttal, then they just move the topic. A lot of journalists, you will see that on reporters use that kind of technique. Exactly. Thousands of different criminal cases are not capable of being a witch hunt. Yep.
Why or why not this is classified as political violence, I think you have to look at what is the downstream following of a partisan message from Democrats, from Republicans, and what is actually happening here. You can call BLM political violence if it's, hey, these people were trying to, well, hold on, let me see. Do you guys agree on the definition that political violence is a violent or credible threat of violence intended to influence government policy or intimidate civilians for political or ideological purposes?
I think it's close enough. I may make slight addendums, but I think it's close enough for this discussion.
I like
just in case, what would you amend?
I like to predicate it with causing harm or destruction.
Yeah, or coercion.
Sure. I would say, I'm not going to get pedantic and say that violence or threats or even, burning down buildings is somehow not political violence, just to be clear. I don't think that's why it's not counted. I think the reason BLM...
And when they were burning down police stations, did any of these studies include that? Just wondering.
Not sure, but again, the problem
probably
is
not.
Doing this, it might not have for that specific one, but when you look at the totality of all of these things...
and that's a problem right there. What they're doing right now in Portland, in Chicago, even Los Angeles, would you consider that to be a left-wing political violence? Clearly it is, but I don't think a lot of these studies would even include that. But at that point, we're just working with two double standards. You see?
When you look at people rioting and taking advantage of a movement, which,
you're right.
again,
so it's
as
not,
much as it is a meme,
which it is a political violence when you start thinking about it. For me, personally, I think Portland in itself, it's just a failed city. Oregon is a failed state. And I think they failed to just enforce their own law. Therefore, I think they're in a state of rebellion. So that means that the federal government needs to just step in and just take control and just enforce the state law and federal law to restore that state. Clearly, that state is in a state of rebellion, in my opinion.
Overwhelmingly peaceful as a percentage is not the same as political violence intended to spread.
Yeah, what happened? I could not disagree more. Yeah,
spread a message.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I could not disagree more. Yeah, the thing about the state of Oregon, Seattle, you have to understand a lot of these places, they already have some laws. They're passing law, but they're not going through those laws. There's nothing wrong with those cities. He's making that stuff up. All right. Okay.
Change people's ideology.
Did you
there's nothing wrong in those cities. So if I go to Portland, there's literally walkthrough. Sure they are. Why do you think so? Meaning what? I'm a little bit confused. You meaning that there's not a problem of homelessness? There's not a problem of rule of law? Yeah, it's a normal city. What about it? It's a normal city. You're telling me that Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles are normal city? No. Those cities they're basically in a state of chaos. Sure, there is. There always was. No. The problem is to understand this. The way those cities are being ran is that they are passing laws and they're not just enforcing those laws. So you have robbery, and they're not enforcing the law to make sure these people can go to jail. So you do this for a prolonged time. You create something what they call the anarchy. How do you call it? Anarchy. I forgot the word now, man. It's like a soft way of tyranny, anarcho-tyranny kind of government. So you only enforce the law for the law by the. No, it's not anarchies. It's anarchy. Tyranny of anarchy. Anarchy of tyranny of anarchy. I forgot the word. It's basically when you are applying the law only to a law-abiding citizen. So what happened is when you're only applying anarcho-tyranny. Anarcho-tyranny. No, it's not anarcho-capitalism. That's more like a libertarianism. It's anarcho-tyranny. So basically what you're doing is you're only applying the law to law-abiding citizens, but the criminal, you're just not punishing them. So at that point, the concept of law is just almost diminished to the point that it could just go complete chaos. Why would they do that? It's politics. It's just what they want. They want more control. right? It's easier for them to control a population that they don't follow the law. Well, you can. Where are you doing this? Well, you can see that in Twitter. There's multiple videos about this. People just walking through Portland and Seattle. There's several documentaries about this. That gives them less control. No, because if you think about this, if you give control to the criminals, you have more an argument to put martial law, and only have those resources to protect those that are close to you. You see what I'm saying? If you create like an anarcho-tyranny, those resources that are being used for a law-abiding citizen, you take that out, and now you're bringing that to you, the government. Hang on. Okay. Let's see. They are not the one doing the martial law. No. Currently, there's no martial law, right? But the local government can create a martial law. No, there's no martial law. No, Trump is not creating martial law. What is going on right now in Seattle and Portland? No. So what is going on right now in Portland is the federal government is trying to enforce federal law. That the city, check this out, that the city in itself is not helping to enforce. No, not yet. The reason there's militarization, kind of, right, is because the government is trying to enforce federal law. You see what I'm saying? By the city not helping the federal government forcing the law, record low crime rate. No, give me 1 second. But let me explain this to you. Every time that the local government and the state is not helping enforce federal law, the federal government is going to do everything in their power to make sure that federal law is enforced. So the more time passes where the local and the state are not helping, it's giving more ammunition for Trump to send more militarization. I think we might be operating on a separate set of facts here. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. When it comes down to Seattle, Portland, I'm telling you because I used to live in a liberal city. I used to live for New York City for 6 years. A lot of these places are basically just chaotic. They're almost they're running unconstitutionally. But first of all, they're not even. Yeah. Oh, can we check crime rates? Even if it is zero, I'll give you this argument. Even if it is zero. No, even if it is zero, the crime rate is zero. They can manipulate the crime by not reporting the crime, like they do most of the time. They're not putting criminals in prison. Remember, this is the way they're just handling some of this stuff. They're not putting criminals in prison. In paper, it looks like they're not committing crime, but they're not, and they're enforcing laws. By not enforcing law, you have no crime statistics. Too many people involved, can't be done. It can be done. At this point, the local counties have lost control. So even the police don't have even the resources to even put these people in prison, unless you get a person that is such a pro. How can I say this? Some of these places they might just go into, I don't know, like chaotic states. Like, I don't know. Where do you get that they lost control? Simple. When you stop just enforcing law in the long run, right? When business leave the city, when people move out of those places, when you don't have people moving in, what happens is crime getting infested in those areas. If crime rates records low, that necessarily means the exact opposite. No, if crime rates are low, it's because people are not reporting the crime. That's the reason. People are not recording, they're not reporting the crime. Because people are not reporting the crime, crimes are not being reporting. It seems like the crime rate is going low. No, it's low because they're not reporting the crime. So it looks good on paper, but these places are out of control. Better control, no worse. People don't stop reporting crime. No way. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Well, Portland is a good city. The case in Washington, D.C., where they just threw some of the statistics. And what happened was that some of the statistics were just modified. Yeah, they were modified to make sure that they can look good in paper. But the fact is that they were just changing the definition of some of these crimes. That way, the crime stats don't look as worse. No way. Yeah. Some of these liberal places, they're not even reporting. There's a document. There's a multiple documentary. Let's just give you an example. Kensington, Pennsylvania. Have you been in Kensington, Pennsylvania? All those people in those streets are committing a crime. All those people are committing crime by using drugs in the streets, committing violent crime, deleting each other. Those crimes are not reported. Kensington, Pennsylvania is a great example of that. If you don't believe me, go to YouTube. Just go to Kensington, Pennsylvania. There's walkthrough. People just recording walkthrough about this. No, these people. No, that's a bit. No, that's not a bit of a stretch. The majority of these big cities, which are led by liberal government, they end up like that. Drug use is not a violent crime. It's not, but it's still a crime. In a lot of those areas, people die, and those are not just. Listen. Okay, drug use is not a violent crime. Let me just agree with you. Okay, let me agree with you. I put it like this. Good point. Drug use is not a violent crime. You're correct. What you say, even though drug use is not a violent crime, would you consider that area dangerous? Would you consider that area dangerous? That's the question. Will you consider that area dangerous? Of course, got it. Would you consider that area not only dangerous, but you know they commit a lot of crime, not only using drugs, but just selling drugs, which is a state in a federal offense. No. See, a lot of these places, they simply don't report the crimes. This is how they do it. This is how they do it. Good conversation, man.
Really just do the fiery but mostly peaceful life?
No, if it is legalized. So see, it doesn't mean that much less dangerous than. No. Actually, the statistics on that is the opposite. Denver, Colorado is a good example. Has gotten worse since the legalization of drugs, mostly marijuana. Seattle and Portland, that got worse because what happened is you cannot pretend. Here's the thing: you cannot pretend people making unsafe decisions, right? Irresponsible decision to be responsible. Using drugs, it is a responsible decision. You cannot pretend, especially very addicted drugs. You cannot pretend that people are going to be responsible afterward. It doesn't work like that. So they create, very bad areas. You cannot pretend people make a responsible decision to just create a responsible society. Drinking is irresponsible by that definition. It is. You cannot. That's why you cannot drink and drive. Correct? That's why you cannot drink and drive. Is that correct? Is that correct? Because if you drink and drive, there's a possibility that you can just delete other people. So we should have the military station in all bars. So we should have this military station in all bars. No, because at that point, check this out. You're giving me my argument. At that point, local counties are already enforcing that law. Am I correct? Am I correct? Local counties are already enforcing that law. Is that correct? Let me know. This is good. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Yeah, that's the thing.